Welcome everybody to another video. We'll be discussing the HMS HOOD. It's here. WarGaming leaked it last week. They sent out pictures. They actually sent a picture of what it might look like in port. Needless to say, everybody, including myself, are quite excited about this ship. It was the crown jewel of the Royal Navy before its destruction in 1941. And there's good reason for why it was the flagship, the crown jewel. It was beautiful. It was big. It was fast. It had big guns. This should be a fun ship. In this video, we'll be going through the stats you see there on the right hand side that WarGaming has put out about the ship. We'll be going through each and every one of those, as well as we'll be looking at what potential stats might be. I did lots of research into what the ship was and how WarGaming seems to do things. So hopefully the stats will be pretty accurate as to how the ship will be represented in the game. Obviously can't guarantee that. Let's take a look at this next slide here. And what we circled up there is historical data as of 1940. Stats in the game may differ. I'm right along with that statement. I'm not saying that what I show you in this video is going to be exactly what the ship will be. I hope it'll be a good representation. I think it will be. And it's just fun to speculate a little bit and get a little more excited about this ship coming into the game. Hopefully this summer, early fall, somewhere around in there. I know WarGaming's got a lot they're bringing out. Alabama's coming out soon. The French line. I think they've shown a Japanese aircraft carrier. We got a lot going on as far as the immediate future of WarGaming, and hopefully the HOOD comes sooner rather than later. Next, going to be showing, I guess, the model of the HOOD. It says HMS HOOD as of 1940. That plays a little bit into the stats of the ship. The HMS HOOD was destroyed in 1941 by the Bismarck. Everybody in the world probably knows that. The Bismarck shell penetrated the deck armor and into the magazine, and the HOOD exploded and sank, I believe, in under 5 minutes. At least that's what everybody thinks happened. Alright, what some people don't know is the HMS HOOD was actually due for a deck armor refit, which would have significantly increased the deck armor of the ship. I believe that was due to take place in 1942. So maybe that Bismarck shell would have never penetrated the deck if the new deck armor was already refitted. You know, I had to do that little troll there. Alright, the next one is going to be classification says battle cruiser tier 7. There's no battle cruiser class in the game as of yet. Hopefully they do that one day. But as of right now, a tier 7, that's going to be a battleship. I mean, if it were a cruiser with these stats would probably be a 9 or a 10 in the tier category. So yeah, battleship tier 7. Guess what it's going to meet in the game? Alright, I promise I'm done using the Bismarck video. There'll be no more Bismarck video in this video, if that makes any sense to you. Alright, let's move on to the length. This is 261.9 meters is what WarGaming says. Let me take a look at my cheat sheet here. That is 861 feet. It's a big ship. 861 feet. See here, I got some other ships on here. The Iowa battleship, tier 9 from the U.S. Navy, 887 feet. So the HMS HOOD is only going to be 6 feet shorter than that ship. 6 feet, I mean, that's not even going to be really recognizable. It's pretty much going to be the same length as the Iowa. That's a big ship. It's a lot bigger than I thought it was. I mean, I always knew that the hood was like I mentioned before, the crown jewel of the Royal Navy, but I had no idea it was actually the size that it is as far as length goes. I always thought that the ships that long and slender and sleek looking, that appealed to me. So obviously excited about the hood's looks. And one of my favorite ships in the game is the Admiral class, the Hipper class rather, from the German Navy. And here's just a size comparison of what we can be expecting from the hood in the game. As you see here in the big picture in the middle on the top, as a length comparison of the hood versus the I think that's the Prince Eugen. Definitely the hood's got some length on it. The Eugen was 697 feet according to my research, so that's 164 feet shorter than the hood was. That's considerable. It just really puts it in this perspective of how big the hood is. And also in the bottom left corner there with the lighthouse, you can really see the hood compared to the Eugen. The hood is more squatty and sits way down in the water. You can definitely see us below the waterline profile is far bigger than the Eugen's is. The Eugen's definitely more slender. The hood's definitely got some more width to it. So it's a big ship. Like I said, I really had no idea until I really started looking into this. Alright, the next stat's going to be displacement. That's because how much water it displaces with the ship sitting in it. And we're looking at 49,400 tons. That's a big ship. Let's put that into perspective as well. I'm not going to put any size comparisons up for this one, but just in size comparison, the Bismarck is 49,500 tons, so just 100 tons greater than the hood. The Bismarck was also 792 feet, and as we just discussed, the hood is 861. So this is pretty much bigger than the Bismarck. This is going to appear bigger than the Bismarck. Probably not as wide as far as the beam goes, but it's definitely going to appear about as big as Bismarck did. Alright, next is going to be what I'm probably pretty excited about, speed. 31 knots. Hopefully this is one of the things that they don't change. I know it says stats may differ, but we all want to see 31 knots. That's pretty much what she did. I was reading a little bit on it, and apparently she was really due for some maintenance. And when she was destroyed in the Battle of the Denmark Strait, they were saying her top speed was about 28. But on a good day, full refit, full maintenance done, 31 knots is what we're looking at for the hood. That's going to put it in a pretty good standings as far as the other tier 7s go. The only thing that's going to be able to outpace it is the Gneisenau with a top speed of 32 knots. Scharnhorst is right behind it at 30 knots. And the other two, the Nagato and the Colorado, not even in the running really as far as speed goes. So that's something to be excited about. 31 knots, that's a high stat. That's really the first kind of stat we've looked at. And it's a good one. It's looking up so far anyway. Alright, next we'll be talking about armament. I'll do the 381 millimeter guns. We'll be talking about them a little bit later. 381 millimeter Mark 1 guns with the elevation upgrade. So the Mark 1-N, N is in November, upgrades for the ship. And again, we'll talk about that in a little bit. Moving down the list, the 533 millimeter torpedo tubes. There's 4 of them. Excuse me, there's 4 torpedoes. From what I understand, it's going to be 2 torpedoes on each side, and I'm not really seeing it on the model. The only thing I see is where I've circled here, that little dark area, kind of like a platform. I guess they could put the torpedo tubes there. But as far as the torpedoes go, just judging by the other British cruisers is really the only thing we have to go by. Warspite doesn't have torpedoes, but the other cruisers, they also have 533 millimeter torpedo tubes, and what they all seem to have is all pretty consistent across the board, except once you get up there into the really high tiers with the Neptune. So what we're probably going to be looking at for the hood is going to be 2 torpedoes each side. 8 kilometer range is what I'm thinking they're going to have. So it's going to be a little bit further than the Germans, but the speed's going to be a little reduced. The speed of the British one seems to be around 61 knots, which is down just a couple of knots from the Germans, and the reload is right along there with the Germans at 70 knots, or excuse me, 70 seconds. That's what I'm trying to read here. 70 seconds on the reload. The Germans are around 68. So it's going to be better at distance torping, where you're actually trying to go up against a battleship, maybe. Whereas the Germans they have 3 per side, so they're a little more defensive with a little shorter range and a little speed boost, and also having the extra torpedo. So I think they're pretty even. More range, but you're missing a torpedo at launch. So it's a win-lose situation, but I kind of like the range. Maybe we'll be able to hit some unsuspecting battleship torping from behind an island or something like that. Alright, moving along to the AA armament, HMS HOOD. There's a lot. 102 millimeter anti-aircraft gun, 14 of them. I guess maybe 7 per side. That's a high caliber and quite a good number of them. So it's looking good so far. 40 millimeter machine guns. There's 24, 12 per side. That's also a high number and decent caliber. We start moving down to the 12.7 millimeter machine guns, and that's 16. The screen's a little blurry. Yeah, there we go, 16. Yep, so 8 per side. So as far as the guns go, it's looking like it could have some pretty good AA protection. I'm thinking 70, 80 in the ratings for AA. The only unknown variable we've got here is rocket launchers. What in the world? We're actually getting maybe a new weapon in the game. I don't really see how that'll work, unless it just shoots by itself. You kind of think rockets are something that you target, you aim, and you shoot. I mean, of course you do that with a gun, but with a rocket you feel like you might have more control over it. But if they do introduce it, I really doubt we'll have any control over it. And as of right now, it's probably not going to be super effective. I mean, you can't just introduce something into a system such as a rocket launcher and all of a sudden no plane can come within a mile of your ship. I don't think it's going to be like that. They're probably going to be just not guided, obviously. I don't even think they had guided anti-aircraft missiles back then. I'm pretty sure they didn't. So it's going to be unguided. It's just going to shoot up in the air and blow up if they do have it in the game. I don't think they're going to be accurate. They might be devastating if they actually do hit, but I really don't think they'll be accurate. But the greatest takeaway we can come out of this is it'd be cool to see a new weapon in the game, and just on the machine guns alone, the hood looks like it's going to have some pretty good anti-aircraft protection, which begs to differ. I mean, what we've seen so far is there's really no weakness as of yet. But we'll delve into some more stuff in a little bit, and unfortunately some probable items, some probable stats that are going to be pretty disappointing. But it's going to be a good ship. So we'll move along from this slide and we'll start getting into the stats here. Alright, let's talk about something that's probably not awesome. Let's just put it that way. We've got these guns here. These are going to be, as far as I can tell, the same guns that are on the HMS Warspite, which is going to be 15-inch MK1 is the designation for the guns. Now, the original MK1s had an elevation of only 20 degrees, and later on in World War II, the Warspites were upgraded to the MK1-N as a November designation. And what that did, that allowed the guns to elevate to 30 degrees. And that's also what the hood has. So what the Warspite's guns are is basically what we're going to get for the HMS Hood. I mean, I don't see why they would change it. The hood obviously has lots of strengths. Looks like the AA is going to be good. It's fast. So it's also big, so it's probably going to have a pretty good health pool. So I think we're going to have our first kind of a bummer here is going to be the turrets. Alright, and here's where the gun's going to be that much fun. And we're talking about turret traverse and reload, and this is obviously, you can read there, it's a full 180 degree turn and a full reload cycle. You can see there the hood has a turret traverse in seconds of 72, which is the same as the Warspite, so that is the longest in the game, I believe. It's going to be horrible, to say the least. Hopefully WarGaming somehow buffs that up. Maybe we'll get it hopefully around 50, 45 would be awesome. But you can expect the turret traverse to be garbage. I mean, just look at the cruisers for the Royal Navy. Their turret traverse is garbage. And they're, 152 millimeters? So just expect the turret traverse to be horrible. And don't be too disappointed when it does show up to be 72 or 60 or something like that. Also, reload's going to be pretty par for the course. 30-second reload. That's pretty much what you expect from battleships. Obviously, you have exceptions like the Scharnhorst with the 283 millimeter guns. They reload considerably faster at 20 seconds, and they also rotate faster. So here's what we can expect: middle of the road reload and horrible traverse. Alright, let's take a look at the shells. Shells, as you can see here, are no surprise. We just discussed it. They are going to be the Warspite shells. Kind of middle of the range in size of the shells at 381. You can see they're definitely bigger than the Scharnhorst, and just a tiny bit bigger than the Gneisenau. But the shell velocity is not all that great. 732 meters per second. It's not that great, but if anybody's played the Warspite, you realize that it doesn't have tremendous range to it, so you don't notice the poor muzzle velocity, or shell velocity rather. If they do increase the range for the hood over the Warspite for some reason, I don't know how they would do that, considering it's the exact same gun and it's got the same elevation, it shoots the same shells. But if they were, I think we might start to notice the decrease in shell velocity if they did do that. Alright, moving on to the gun range, and it's not looking good for the hood. Again, these are the HMS Warspite guns, so we can expect the same range, 16.3 kilometers. Now this is one thing that I hope WarGaming does fix, is just, as you can see by the list there, it's just nowhere in the ballpark of the other other tier 7 ships. I do feel like the Hood's probably going to get the spotting aircraft, so it'll boost it up to around 19 kilometers, so it'll be in the ballpark then, but that's just when you have your spotting aircraft up. So I say 16.3, but I do think that WarGaming is probably going to boost that up a little bit, hopefully to around 18 and a half kilometers. So it'll be competitive with kind of the lower end of the tier 7 battleships when it comes to range. But I mean, again, it's a good ship, and it does need some things to kind of even it out to be a good tier 7 battleship, and for it to be not overpowered but competitive with the other ships. Alright, shell accuracy. This is going to be a note when it comes referring to the Hood, rather. Anybody that's again played the Warspite, you realize that those guns are laser beams. Wherever you put them, that's where they seem to go. They've got a great sigma rating. The dispersion is really great, and that little formula up there is how I determine the accuracy of the guns. Obviously, anybody who's played the Colorado plays a lot like the Warspite with the accuracy. And again, anybody who's played the Gneisenau really understands bad sigma and bad dispersion. Every once in a while you get a good one, but for the most part it's a little all over the place. So these are the ratings that I've come up with for the accuracy. Obviously the Colorado just edges out the Hood and the Warspite in the accuracy department. Taking a look at input, this is based off of the maximum damage that these ships do. Colorado maximum damage of 12,400 per shell. Nagato is 12,600 per shell. Gneisenau 11,600 per shell. The Scharnhorst is 7,600 per shell. And it looks like the Warspite slash Hood, I should say, is 11,400. So that puts the rounds a minute for the Hood at 16 rounds per minute, with a maximum potential damage of 182,400, and that's with every shell hitting maximum damage, which is pretty impossible, but gotta put it in there. So as far as tier 7s go, it's pretty average. It's right along there. Obviously the Scharnhorst is special, and the rate of fire can potentially, it won't, but potentially do the most damage of all the tier 7 battleships. Alright, now we come to the armor, and I think this is going to be another downfall for the Hood. It's going to be the armor. The heaviest section of belt armor, the 305mm, that's decent, but 152 it's got some weak points, just like the Nagato does. However, when you look on the deck armor side of things, a minimum of 19mm for deck armor. That is just awful, and obviously that's what I guess most historians can attribute to why the Hood blew up the way it did. How the magazine was so easily penetrated was the weak deck armor, which again was due to be refit. It was due to be strengthened, but I don't think WarGaming's gonna do that, especially since the page that they leaked on it specifically says Hood as of 1940, when it had the weak armor as we have displayed right here. So I think this is probably going to be an issue for the Hood in this game. We'll see what they do with the Citadel for it. That plays a big role into how well the ship is able to hold up. So we'll see how they do the Citadel. Here's a Citadel view of the HMS Warspite. As you can see, it's below the water line, which is nice. I don't think that they're going to do that to the Hood. I think the Hood's probably going to look more like this as far as the Citadel goes. I think it's just going to be a massive floating citadel, kind of like a Iowa or any Soviet big cruiser. I think they're probably gonna have a little issues with the armor on it, and I think honestly they kind of have to do this because it appears the ship's gonna be really good. It's gonna be fast, probably kind of maneuverable. I don't know about that. We'll talk about that in a second. But I mean, the ship has to have some weaknesses. I mean, it's only a tier 7, so I think it's going to be a weakness present when it comes to the armor and the citadel. I do think it's probably going to have an exposed citadel. Alright, this video has gone on for than I anticipated, so we'll just run through the last little bit here. Speed wise, we already talked about the speed a little bit in the initial beginning of the video rather. Speed wise, 31 knots. That's going to be just slower than the Gneisenau and just a hair faster than the Scharnhorst, so it's going to be at the high end of it. As far as maneuverability goes, ship is 860 feet, so obviously it's probably going to have a pretty good turning circle. The British ships so far in the game seem to be pretty maneuverable, so I'll say it's probably going to be in the ballpark of 830 meters turn circle. So I think it's probably going to be impressive for its size anyway. Rudder shift, I think it'll have a fast rudder shift. I think they're going to let the ship kind of be a maneuverable, fast vessel. So I think it's probably going to have a fast rudder shift. Probably stock, probably under 15 seconds would be my guess. As far as health pool, we discussed it a little bit. It's got a weight rating of, let's see here, 49,400, which is, again, it's going to be right around the Bismarck. So I'm going to say the health pool is probably going to be around 70,000 hit points. That's what I feel like it's going to be, judging by the size of the ship and what WarGaming seems to have done in the past. I think that's going to wrap us up for this video. Thank you guys for watching. It's just a little rundown of what I feel like the ship could be, and I did use a little bit of scientific data, not really scientific data, but just a little bit of research to stand behind my facts. So that's what I think. I hope this has got you a little more excited about the ship. I know I'm excited about the ship. I'm going to be a day one owner of it. I've been waiting for this ever since I started playing the game. So hope you guys have a good rest of the day, and catch you later.